So today we're making a cold noodle salad that is perfect for the summer months. You're gonna wanna bring this to every barbecue that you go to for the rest of time. If you're ready, it's about to get delicious in here. All right, so today on Delicious and Nutritious, we are making a cold Orzo salad with some feta cheese, and we're gonna top it off with a little more protein in the form of some cold grilled chicken. So our key ingredient today, our primary ingredient today is Orzo, which is just a small grain macaroni, just like any other pasta in the world. It's our primary carb source today. But I really like this stuff because it's great when you cook it, you boil it off, you cool it down, run it under some cold water, you make a nice cold salad out of it, which is what we're gonna do today. We're also gonna throw in some fat-free feta cheese, which is pretty much just like pure protein. Now, you can go to the store, you can get full fat feta if you want, that's totally fine. You're getting some good omega-3s in the fat portion of that cheese, but I like to go for the fat-free just because it's lower calorie, you get more protein in there, or more a percentage of the calories come from protein because you don't have any fat in there, and there's very little carbs in that as well. So we're going with fat-free feta today, but feel free to substitute full fat if you want. Today we've got some light Italian dressing. You can use full fat Italian dressing if you want. I personally have used this with Newman's Own. He's got like a fancy avocado and extra virgin olive oil based Italian dressing that's really good, but it's like $5 a bottle, and I didn't feel like buying another bottle because I have one that's like 80% full, but it's at my friend's house in Connecticut, so I couldn't get to it before we shot today. So I picked up the light, cheap version, which I think was like $3. This has got some extra virgin olive oil in it. It also has some other oils that aren't like amazing in terms of like inflammation and stuff, like canola oil and other oils like that aren't like amazing for you. But for today's purpose, in terms of calories, because calories in, super important, 60 calories per 30 grams, that's 2 teaspoons. That's really good when you're working with something that has something like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. It's gonna be closer to like 120 calories per 2 tablespoons, just because there's a little more fat in there. So this is the light fat one, so pretty low fat in general, but I actually do like to use extra virgin olive oil in this dish when I make it at home sometimes because I do want that fat source in there. And I actually have made Italian dressing on my own at home before. It's, I believe, if I remember correctly, 2 parts extra virgin olive oil, 1 part vinegar, a half of a part lemon juice, and then you want some garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, salt, Italian seasoning, and crushed red pepper flakes. Mix it up, pour it, it's delicious. So also going in our cold Orzo salad today is gonna be a red onion. We're gonna do some cucumber, and we're gonna do some grape tomato, cherry tomato. These small tomatoes are great because actually they're a smaller surface area. They stay fresher for longer. They're better to eat, especially out of season, though we're getting into tomato season as we're getting into the summer, but that's just something to keep in mind. If you're a big tomato fan and you want fresh, delicious tasting tomatoes all year round, go for the smaller tomatoes, grape or cherry. So all we're gonna do, we've got our water. I started boiling this early. This is about roughly 4 quarts of water. That's 16 cups or 128 ounces in there. We're gonna bring that up to a boil. Once that's boiling a little more than it is right now, we're gonna toss our Orzo in there. But first we're gonna move over to cut cam because we got a decent amount of chopping to do to start the show, which seems to be how we start every show. And going into our vegetables that we're cutting, like I mentioned, cucumber, red onion, tomato, do whatever you want in terms of vegetables in this. I think tomatoes, I would say you need tomato, you need red onion, you need cucumber. Not a hard rule. You can get rid of any of those if you don't want them. If you don't like tomato, don't use them. You don't like red onion, don't use. But I think these 3 key. If you want to add more, some broccoli, some asparagus, go crazy. The first time I made this, I actually bought some Chinese broccoli, which has the fibrous stem end and also a leafier end. That's not like regular American broccoli. It kind of looks like spinach or kind of like kale in the sense it's got the leafy end with the stem. It was awesome. I blanched it, chopped it up, threw it in there. But the last 2 times I've made this, I've stayed simple, classic, cucumber, red onion, tomato. So nothing special here about the way we're gonna chop these up. I'm just gonna take the ends off like so. There's no, reason to do that. And then I'm just gonna kind of chop this into bite-sized cubes. So to do that, I'm going to, and there's probably a correct way to do this, and I'm gonna do it the way that I want. So I'm gonna kind of I cut it in half, and then I cut this half vertically down the middle so we get these like wedges. And then I'm gonna cut these wedges into strips, 3 strips, like this. And then I'm just gonna give these cut these into small little pieces like that. These are maybe a touch bigger than I'd like, but you know what? It's fine. So just doing this action here. And on cut cam, you'll be able to see kind of what these pieces look like. Like I said, maybe a touch larger than I want. On the next one, I'll cut them smaller. So we're gonna work through these cucumbers, and then we'll move on to the red onion in a little bit. We're gonna fast forward, and we'll be ready in a second. All right, so we've cubed up our cucumbers, which actually times up pretty nicely. Our water has come to a boil. This is a really complex part. You don't want to mess this up. So your water's boiling. You take your box of Orzo. We're using the whole box here, 454 grams. We're going to end up making about 5 servings of this. They're going to be big servings, which I like. So here we go. All of this Orzo into the water. Don't overflow. Very nice. And we're gonna let that cook in this water we're gonna set a timer for 9 minutes, I think should be good for the amount of Orzo that we have in there. The box says anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes. I'm gonna go with 9. We've chopped up our cucumber. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this out of the way because this is eating up a lot of the chopping board. Bunch of pieces of cucumber, and rather than trying to grab it like that, these are flexible chopping boards. Bend it. That's called efficiency, people, right there. Now, I mentioned the Orzo is our carb source. Some people are not a big fan of eating pasta for their carbs. I don't really mind. I think it's fine. Oh man, this thing's boiling like crazy. This is gonna go nuts, but we'll live with it. That's fine. And you just want to stir this as it's going every couple of minutes. But there's nothing special about this pasta. It's not gluten-free. If you don't have a gluten allergy, not eating gluten, I don't think makes a huge difference from all the reading that I've done. If you want to avoid gluten, avoid it. That's totally fine. I don't mind it. I eat a decent amount of pasta. It's not my #1 carb source. I eat a lot of rice because I like it, and I eat a lot of potato because I also like those, but I like pasta too, and I've been eating a lot of pasta recently as well. So, next thing we're gonna chop up. Actually, we are gonna go with the onion. I was gonna wait because I think I'm gonna tear up doing this, but the tomatoes take a while to chop. I'm not gonna lie. There's no way around it. Unless you have one of those sweet choppers like my friend has, where you can just run them through this chopper thing and it chops up everything into little uniform cubes in like 2 seconds. Like it's just like a mouth, it's like a thing and it's got a container and then a grate that's got knives in it or sharp knives. I cut myself immediately on this finger. You can't see it, but I cut myself on my middle finger when I used it because I knew I would. But you put your stuff in there and you just close it and it chops it in like 2 seconds. And I've been close because I have some points saved up on Amazon to buying one of those for this specific thing, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I probably will. So just cutting the stems off of this thing. I cut it down the middle, cut the stems off, no use there. Peel, skin, and the first layer of the onion. You don't need that. I'm gonna use this bag as a makeshift trash can for the time being. Same thing here. Bagoosh. Get some of the skin off there because you don't want to end up eating that. Kick this up a touch. That's gonna be a fun game to manage that boiling water this entire episode. And then we're just gonna slice this thin, and then we're gonna give it a rough chop. Now I'm gonna see how much half of a red onion looks like, and then I'll make a game time decision on whether I'll cut the other half or maybe a quarter of this. We'll see. So we're just slicing this like so. And yep, I'm starting to tear up. That's going to make the rest of this episode so much fun, or at least there's going to be like a 5-minute stretch where this is going to be brutal. So then I'm just going to chop this, roughly chop into little cubes. I always feel like red onions release more, like a stronger version of like that lacrimator, because these things, oh man, they get you so bad. Whew. I'm going to fast forward from this point forward because I'm turning into a mess right here. All right, so we've cut half of this red onion. Just because I'm dying over here, I'm throwing out that second half. There's no way on earth I'm cutting that. That's not the first time I've stopped cutting onions because I can't even see right now. Which somehow I didn't chop my fingers off, which is amazing. I'm actually gonna blow my nose. That's what we do on this show. I just wipe my nose in the middle of live programming here, but I'm dying. Red onion, like I said, for some reason, I don't know if it's got like a stronger, like the lacrimator is stronger than it is in the onion, in regular white onions. But man, as soon as you chop into those things, they open up and they get you. All right, as I'm trying to compose myself here. We chop these up, relatively fine pieces. Don't worry too much about if they're uniform or whatever. That's kind of fine. This is rustic style Orzo salad. All those onions just went all over the place. No big deal. Let me wipe down the cutting board, because the next thing we're going to do, so we have our cucumbers, we've got our red onion. We're going to stir our Orzo a little bit just so it doesn't stick to the bottom and it doesn't stick too much to itself, because there's a decent amount of starch kicking off of here. So give that a little stir every couple of minutes. That's boiling nicely. Even kick the heat up a little more. Let's wipe off some of this red onion, because now we're going to go to our cherry tomato. I'll demonstrate on the first couple, then we'll kick this thing in a hyper speed and we'll finish off chopping up this whole container. This is about 1 dry pint worth of grape tomatoes. How do people do these shows and cut onions and not like have them? Well, they probably cut the onion and then actually take a break and then like let the person compose themselves. But on this show, we just keep trucking through. So little grape tomatoes, these things are tiny. So I'm just gonna cut these like in half. If they were a little bigger, like if you get cherry tomatoes that might be a touch bigger, you could even cut the halves into quarters. These small ones, I'm just gonna cut into half. I like a nice little punch of tomato in a bite of my cold Orzo here. So just slice these in half. My stomach just growled there. I don't know if the mic picked that up. I have eaten this morning, but I'm hungry again. Trained legs this morning, and I always get super hungry on Wednesdays because of that. So I wanted to film this episode as early as possible so this food could be done and I could start eating it. That's me being honest and open with you. We always eat this food, usually off air. We ate on the last episode, which was a while ago. I actually took a bite of the food. And I only do that because we have to get the beauty shots after it's finished. So I don't want to eat part of it and then try to get the beauty shots. But we always eat it. This isn't one of those shows where like, oh, this is so good, it tastes amazing, and then we're like not eating it, we're spitting it out after. No, we eat this stuff. Tim will tell you it tastes pretty good most of the time, every time so far. But there's no guarantees. We might make something eventually that doesn't taste great. Who knows? So we'll cut our tomatoes. At this point, by the way, if you're only doing three simple vegetables, and once you finish cutting up your cucumber, your onion, and your tomato, and all you have to do is let your Orzo boil at that point, the recipe is like pretty much done. You'll see how simple it is from this point forward. Overall, it's a pretty simple recipe in general, but we'll finish cutting these tomatoes in half, and we'll come back hopefully with some boiled Orzo. We'll run it through a colander, we'll cool it down, and then we'll combine everything in a big pot, and that's pretty much it. So we'll be back in a second with everything moving on to the next step. All right, there's our last cherry tomato cut up. Cherry tomato, red onion, cucumber, Our orzo, my timer went off a minute ago. It's been going for just over 9 minutes now. I'm gonna give this one last stir, just to, again, break up some of the clumps. And you can see there's actually a pretty big clump there of orzo. So that's why you wanna be stirring this thing to hopefully break those clumps up. Again, there's a decent amount of starch that's been cooking out in here, so it's gonna make it kind of sticky. But we're going to strain this, and we're gonna run it through some water, which will cook off, or not cook off, will strain off and wash off some of that excess starch. So after 9 minutes, we're going to morph into the North TV kitchen because we need running water and a sink, or we're going to make a mess in here, which would be bad. So we're going to go to the North TV kitchen, and then we'll come back here, all by the magic of editing. All right, so we're in the North TV kitchen now. We're going to strain this orzo that we've cooked for like 9 minutes or so. Got this big mamma jamma pot that we're gonna end up needing because there's a lot of orzo in there, and once we add the vegetables, you need a big pot to mix in. I've underestimated every time how big of a vessel I've needed to mix for. So go for the biggest pot that you have. Colander, remember this from the rice episode? This is not gonna fit all of this, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some of it right in here. So we'll just get this water going through the old colander. Get your orzo in there. Careful, careful. Okay, got most of it. We lost a little bit, but that's fine. Get this out and pour this out because this is gonna be our vessel at this point. And what I'm also gonna do to best kind of guesstimate or best do the math on how big of a portion I'm gonna need for 5 individual portions out of this whole box. We're gonna put this on here first. If you put a object on the scale first, it'll automatically come up as 0. So it'll zero out. If you lift this up, this pot is 1,500 grams. It actually might be more than 1,500 grams. That goes back to 0. Throw this first batch in. That's 600 grams. So again, dry weight, all of this orzo was 454 grams. We already have 644 grams cooked weight of orzo. So this stuff absorbs a ton of water. Let's get the rest here. And then we're gonna do this here, which I should have done with this, I forgot. We're gonna run this through some cold water. Because again, at this point, we've cooked it. We wanna cool it down, stop the cooking process in here. So give this a once over. Da-da-da. And actually what I'm gonna do is put this back in this bowl for now. And then scoop some of this back in here. You can't see what I'm doing because I'm blocking the camera with the thing, but that's fine. That's almost the rest of it. So run this through. Again, this is just cold tap water, it doesn't matter. And we're washing some of that starch off as well, which will make this less sticky overall. And again, we're just trying to cool this down. So it's a cold orzo salad, not a hot one, obviously. Right there. Throw that in there. One last one, a little bit more. If we don't get it all, that's fine. It'll eventually cool down. Just run this through. That should be good. It only needs a little bit, especially if this water's cold. So let's get our weight of our cooked orzo. I'll show you how much, again, this stuff expands. Again, this was 454 grams dry weight. That's one package. That is 1,128, and there's a little more in here that we're gonna get out. You don't have to go crazy for every single grain. It's not that big of a deal. This is probably less than 1 ounce in here. So we're gonna say, let's see if I can't get this to a round number, 1,265. There it is. All right, so tripled not in volume, tripled in weight. 454 dry, ended up being 1,265 once it's cooked. Let's go back into the studio. Let's mix all this together. Let's get to eating. All right, so we're back here in the studio. We've got our orzo in this pot right here that you can barely see on cut cam. I'll kind of tilt it towards you. It's the orzo that we cooked. It doesn't look like anything special right now. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to add our vegetables. So I count these vegetables as 0 calories. They're not 0 calories, but I still want to get the weight because I want to know when you scoop, you're not just going to be scooping orzo, you're going to be scooping some of these vegetables and you're going to be scooping some of the feta cheese as well. So I'm just going to get the weight of what the vegetables are. And again, I'm just trying to do this so I have a as close to accurate number for what a portion size would be in grams. So that was 342 grams of cucumber, just under 300 grams of tomato, because I didn't re-tear that, it doesn't particularly matter. And then red onion, like 100 grams. You could do more if you have a better way to cut it than I do. So in my phone, I have my little notepad that I keep track of the orzo recipe. You can't really see that, it's out of focus, but no big deal. We have 1,265 grams of cooked orzo. We have 730 grams of vegetables. This pack of feta cheese, we're gonna just throw this whole thing in here because there's 5 servings worth of feta cheese, which is just about 5 ounces. They do 28 grams, which is 1 ounce. So we'll tear this just so we have an accurate guess. This is Athenos fat-free feta. I usually use Presidente or Presidente. I forget if there's an E on the end, but it doesn't matter. Presidente at Market Basket only had these giant ones that I don't need. I would have had a ton left over. Tearing our scale, big clumps of feta cheese that will break up. So let's get that in there. And that's 136 grams. We're just gonna say it's 141 because it doesn't matter that much. So, first of all, look at that. That looks good. See that? Colorful. You got some red, some green, that looks so good. This, I'm telling you, you bring this pot to a barbecue over the summer, little cold orzo salad, people are gonna go, they're gonna love you. They're gonna want the recipe. Tell them, go to or North TV, either one, and watch this episode. Go to northtv.net. I'm gonna bleep that out. All right, let me tear this back to 0. At this point, all we have to do is add some of this here light Italian dressing. We're going to do 2 tablespoons per serving, which might be a little too much. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with 4 tablespoons total, which is gonna be 60 grams of this, just because I don't wanna overdo it. So we'll do 60 grams, and again, I have it on the scale. I weigh everything out. I don't do it by volume. I don't do it by tablespoons. I'd rather just weigh it so I can be as accurate as possible. There is 4 tablespoons. And now all we're gonna do, look at this one more time, now that we got the dressing in there, the red tomatoes, you got the beautiful color from the red onion, the green peppers, the green cucumber, excuse me, and the feta cheese. Now all we're gonna do is give this a stir. How easy has this recipe been? There's no reason that you can't whip this up on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning or a Friday night and you can be eating this all weekend long. I've done that a couple times when I have to work some sporting events all day. You don't have access to a microwave or anything like that, but you want to eat something that tastes a little better than a protein bar or a protein shake, which I have done in the past, but sometimes you just want like a real meal. And I find that this is really good because you could eat it cold with the cold grilled chicken, and it's just phenomenal. So, just mix this up because you want that dressing everywhere, and you want everything to get blended so you got nice even bites. I'm trying to break up some of this feta cheese because it's pretty big too. So actually I've got this slotted spoon. I'm just gonna kind of press some of the bigger pieces when I see them, press them down a little bit to just kind of break them up into more bite-sized pieces because you want a nice, again, you want everything distributed pretty evenly. Here's another big piece. Break that up just with the back of the slotted spoon. Presidente usually, or President brand, I forget what it's called, that they're usually doesn't have these big chunks. Try not to crush the tomatoes if you can avoid it. It might happen as a casualty. But at this point, let me get a taste test. I just want to, does it need more or less? I'm gonna go with a little more Italian, just a smidge more. We're gonna go with just 1 more tablespoon. Actually 2 tablespoons, 30 more grams, so 90 grams total of the, and you're gonna have to judge, so start with a little bit, taste it. Is it too strong? Is it not strong enough? You're gonna have to be the judge of that. So I'm gonna go with 1 more or 2 more tablespoons, 30 more grams. That's it right there. We're gonna mix this up one more time. Then I'll show you on cut cam. One more toss, push down some of this stuff off the side. And I was mentioning how you can make this on the weekend. This is a great, if you want an easy meal preppable meal to make throughout the week for work, you make this big tub, you portion it out, you put it in some containers, put it in the freezer in your, or the fridge in your office, or leave it in the fridge at home and just bring it in every day. You've got delicious orzo salad with Italian dressing. And then I have some grilled chicken that, again, just to get the protein overall a little more, get the protein up a little bit. Look at this. That is fantastic looking. Our orzo salad, done and dusted. You're gonna see some beauty shots of it all mixed together because I have to do the math on how to portion this out into 5 pieces. Just quickly on the chicken, grilled chicken breast, sliced up some chicken breast that trim the fat like I did in the last episode, trimmed off the fat, butterflied it, season it on both sides, get the grill ripping hot, 500, 550 degrees, 600 degrees, both sides for roughly 5 minutes, then take it off the main grill grates that's right above the fire, put it on that resting rack, close the lid, bake it for, you want to close the lid while it's on the main thing too for the 4 or 5 minutes. Put it on the rack, let it rest up there for like 5, 7, 10 minutes. Start checking it after 5 minutes, temping it, and then pull it off when it's at 165. The best grilled chicken you will have in your life. We will do that on the show. By the way, we're looking for somebody who has a nice grill and a nice porch that we can film at this summer to do that grilled chicken and maybe do some burgers and stuff like that. But if you have a great grill and you have a great venue and you want to let us use it, let me know, jerryware@northtv.net. But this grilled chicken, we're going to put it on top, and that's your meal. This orzo salad you can eat as is. You can add chicken to it. You can add cold shrimp to it if you want, but this stuff is delicious. It's versatile. I just made a huge batch in about 30 minutes. This will feed me. I know today I got to do lacrosse. I'm going to bring a portion of this to the field before the game starts to eat that with some more chicken. But this stuff is great, simple, summer recipe to a T. Hope you enjoyed it. It's delicious in here. Thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate you coming around for another episode of Delicious and Nutritious.